My biological dad recently got married after my mom passed away. To give you some context, my relationship with him has never been good. It's a bit of a complicated story, and I think it's important to understand the backstory to see why I feel the way I do. You see, when my mom and dad were in college, they dated for a while. That was when my mom unexpectedly found out she was pregnant with me. Instead of being supportive, my dad pretty much distanced himself from her. He acted like he had nothing to do with the pregnancy, which was really hurtful. He didn't offer any help emotionally or financially, and in fact, he was pretty mean about it. He didn't want any part of it. My mom, being strong and determined, decided to keep me and raise me on her own. She got a lot of help from her parents who were there for both of us, and they helped her through the whole thing. Growing up, I saw how much my mom did for me, even though she didn't have much support from my dad. That's been a big part of my life, seeing how she had to go through all of it with little help from him. And I've never really forgiven him for that. At first, my grandparents were totally against the idea of my mom becoming a single parent. They didn't think it was the right choice for her, and I guess they had a lot of doubts, but once they held me in their arms, everything changed. They completely fell in love with me, and that was the start of a strong bond between us. For the first 6 years of my life, I never met my dad, and honestly, I didn't really care. My mom, my grandparents, and we had our own little world, and I was perfectly happy with that. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. But then, out of the blue, my dad showed up one day. It was a big shock. He didn't just show up and casually ask about me. He begged my mom to take him back. He wanted to be a part of our lives, but my mom turned him down flat. At the time, she was already dating someone else, and I think she had moved on from him. Despite his pleas, she wasn't interested in rekindling anything with him. Even after that, he didn't give up. He begged my mom again, this time asking if he could at least be in my life. It wasn't easy for her, but she agreed, reluctantly. She thought it might be good for me to know who my dad was, even though I didn't really feel like I needed him. It wasn't like I was desperate to meet him or have him in my life. Still, she decided that it was something I should have. And that's how he ended up being a part of my life again, even though it was awkward and not exactly what I had imagined. Looking back, I think my dad wasn't really interested in being a father or having a real relationship with me. I honestly believe he just wanted to stay in my mom's life in some way, no matter what it took. After all, that's what narcissists like him do. So he made up the excuse that he wanted to get to know me better, but in reality, I don't think he was ready to actually be a good dad. At the time, I was just a kid and I didn't really understand the difference. It didn't take much effort from him to win me over because I was young and easily impressed. Whenever I spent time with him, he would shower me with expensive gifts and let me do whatever I wanted, like watching TV for hours on end. It felt exciting because it was something my mom wouldn't have allowed. He would visit me every 2 weeks, and sometimes we'd go to adventure parks or do fun things like that. I didn't understand the difference between love and manipulation back then. I thought that just because he bought me things and gave me all this freedom, that meant he was being a good father. It was an easy way for him to make me feel special. And of course, I loved it. I was just a kid back then, so I didn't really see the bigger picture. I didn't understand what it meant to be a real father. All I saw was the excitement of getting to spend time with him. And I thought that was what being a dad was about. Giving me presents, letting me do whatever I wanted, taking me to fun places. It felt like a dream come true at the time because it was everything I didn't get with my mom. But I didn't understand that there was so much more to being a father than just the material things. I didn't know that being a real dad meant showing up in more meaningful ways, offering support and being there when it really mattered. Not just during the fun moments or when he could give me something. I thought that all the fun trips and the things he bought me were enough to make up for everything else. But now, looking back, I see it wasn't. It was only a small part of what being a dad should have been. When my mom broke up with her then boyfriend, my dad swooped in like a white knight. I guess he saw an opportunity to step back into the picture. At that point, I was pretty comfortable and happy around him, enjoying the attention and the fun moments he provided, seeing how well we were getting along. My dad decided to give him a chance. She thought that maybe, just maybe, this could be the way for the three of us to become a real family, something she had always wanted. But looking back, I realized that my dad was a master at playing the part. He had this charm, this way of talking and making everything sound so perfect. He made my mom believe that he could change, that he could finally step up and be the man she needed. But underneath all of that, he was still the same person he always was, a narcissist. He had a way of making everything about himself, and even though he played the part of the loving partner and father, it didn't take long for his true colors to show. In the beginning, he was all nice, acting like he was a good, responsible father and husband, but once my parents got married, everything started to shift. He slowly changed, and not for the better. The person he pretended to be at first started to fade, and that's when the cracks in our family began to show. It was like the mask he had been wearing slipped away, and we began to see the real him. It all started with him trying to slowly isolate us, my mom and me, from the people who had always been there for us, especially my grandparents. He pushed for us to move to another city, saying that he had got a better opportunity there and that it was the best thing for our family. When my mom pushed back and questioned the move, he used the fact that he earned more money than her as a way to shut her down. He acted like he knew best and made her feel like she didn't have a real say in the decision. Eventually, they bought a house together in the new city. My mom put all of her savings into it, everything she had worked so hard for over the years. And even though it was supposed to be a joint decision, it really felt like my dad was calling all the shots. My mom had to quit her job when we moved, which was a huge sacrifice for her. She didn't just stop working, she gave up her independence. She tried to find a new job in the new city, but it was tough. It wasn't like back home where she had a support system and people who could help. Meanwhile, my dad kept suggesting that she should just stay home, take care of me, do the housework, and be a full-time wife and mom. That was never who my mom was. She had always been independent, hardworking, and strong-willed, but still, she did what she had to do, even if it wasn't what she wanted. She tried her best to make it work for me, for us. But the truth is, neither of us really adjusted. We were both far from home, far from family and friends, and it felt like we were alone in this strange, unfamiliar place. Everything felt off, like we had been pulled away from the people who truly cared about us. And looking back, I think that was exactly what my dad wanted. As time went on, things at home started to fall apart. My parents were fighting constantly. It felt like every day, sometimes over little things, sometimes over big issues, but always with this heavy tension in the air. My mom was clearly unhappy. You could see it in her face, in the way she moved and how quiet she became. It was like the light in her slowly started to dim. And the worst part was that my dad just didn't care. He never made an effort to understand her or see what she was going through. Because she didn't have a job anymore, she was completely dependent on him. And he used that against her. He would control the money in a way that was cruel and humiliating. He made her show receipts for everything she spent, every single thing. If she bought something that wasn't food or something for the house, like even a small treat for herself, he would get angry at her. I remember times when he would make her return things she had already bought, even if it was something simple like a piece of clothing or a small gift for me. He made her feel like she had to ask for permission just because she was dependent on his money. My mom was struggling, and so was I. There was no peace, no comfort, no joy at our home. Then things just got worse. My mom was diagnosed with cancer. It was one of the hardest moments of our lives. We were already dealing with so much, and then this came out of nowhere and hit us like a storm. You'd think that something like this would bring people together, that it would make my dad step up and be there for her, for us. But that's not what happened. Instead, when it came time to talk about treatment and medical expenses, my dad backed away. He said he was short on funds and made it clear he didn't want to pay for her treatment. He told my mom to ask her parents, my grandparents, to cover the costs. It wasn't just disappointing, it was heartbreaking. He didn't even try to hide his lack of concern. It was like he had already checked out of the situation, as if my mom's illness wasn't his problem at all. So my mom and I moved back in with my grandparents. It felt like we were returning to the only place that had ever truly been home. She needed their support, not just financially, but emotionally too. She needed people around her who actually cared. And as always, my grandparents were there for us without hesitation. My dad, though, stayed behind. He never moved back in with us. He kept going with his job and his life in that other city, like nothing had happened. He barely called, barely asked how she was doing. It was like we were no longer his responsibility, like we were just some chapter he had closed. Meanwhile, my mom was fighting for her life, and I was watching her go through the pain of chemo, trying to stay strong for me. We were on our own again, just like we had always been. As my mother's health continued to decline, she met with a lawyer and made a will, making sure that if anything happened to her, everything she had would go to me. She wanted to protect me and to make sure I'd be okay no matter what. At the time, my dad had no idea any of this was happening. He was still off living his own life, barely involved, so she didn't feel the need to include him in those decisions, and honestly, why should she have? When she passed away, it shattered me. Losing her was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. But in the middle of that grief, I also learned that my mom had made sure I'd be taken care of. She had left everything to me, including her share of the house that she and my dad had bought together. Back then, my mom had pulled all her savings to buy a house with my dad, which she decided to leave to me. That meant I was now the co-owner of the house with Dad, and he hated that. The moment he found out, he started pressuring me. He kept telling me to sign off my share of the house to him, saying it wasn't fair, that it should have automatically gone to him, and he should be the sole owner of the property. He tried to make me feel guilty, as if I had taken something that didn't belong to me. But it wasn't mine because I asked for it. It was mine because my mom chose to give it to me. Thankfully, my grandparents stood by me. They saw right through Dad and made sure he couldn't manipulate me into giving up what my mom had left for me. They reminded me that my mom did what she thought was right, and they made sure I knew I didn't owe him anything. Without them, I honestly don't know how I would have handled that time. I was grieving, heartbroken, and still trying to make sense of everything. And my dad was only adding more pressure to the pain. Anyway, once I left for college, things between my dad and me just started fading out even more. He continued to live in the house that I still co-owned. We already didn't have a strong relationship to start with, but the distance just made it worse. We talked less and less with every passing day. He rarely ever called, and when he did, it was usually because he needed something from me, never just to check in or ask how I was doing. There was no real effort on his part to stay connected. The only people I truly stay in touch with are my grandparents. They've been my constant, my real family, the ones who have always shown up for me, and honestly, that's enough for me. Then, just 3 months ago, something happened that really shook me. Out of nowhere, my dad got married again. I had no idea he was even seeing anyone, let alone planning a wedding. There were no conversations, no heads up, nothing. One day, I just saw a photo he posted online, a courthouse wedding picture with his new bride. That was how I found out. No phone call, no message, not even a casual, "Hey, I'm dating someone." I was completely blindsided. It wasn't even about the fact that he was getting remarried. It was the fact that he didn't think I deserved to know. That he didn't feel the need to include me in something so major in his life. It made me realize how far removed I really am from his world, and maybe always have been. A week after the Facebook post, my dad finally decided to call me. He told me he had gotten married, as if I hadn't already seen the picture floating on social media. I told him straight up that I already knew. I saw the photo just like everyone else. He kind of brushed it off and then dropped another bomb. His new wife is pregnant. That's why, according to him, they got married in a hurry without even informing me. I just sat there, phone to my ear, not knowing what to say. I was taken aback, but I kept my mouth shut. There was a lot I wanted to say, things I felt, but I didn't want to start a fight, so I just listened quietly. Then he invited me to come over to the house and meet his wife. He said that both of them wanted to discuss something with me. He didn't say what exactly, just that they wanted to talk. And now I'm left sitting with this invite, not knowing what to do. Part of me is curious, sure, but a much bigger part of me is hesitant. I don't know if I want to go after everything that's happened, after all the years of distance, of him showing up only when it suited him. I just don't know if I'm ready to sit across from him and play the role of supportive daughter in this new life he's building. A life he didn't even bother to include me in until after the fact. So Reddit, AITA if I don't visit Dad after the disrespect he has shown me? Update 1. First and foremost, it's not that I'm trying to be dramatic or cold about my dad suddenly contacting me and asking to meet up with me. It's just that there's a long, painful history here. My dad has always been in and out of my life when it suited him. I watched my mom struggle emotionally, financially, and physically while he stood on the sidelines acting like he was some victim whenever he was called out. After my mom passed away, we went from barely speaking to just not speaking unless he needed something. It's been that way for a long time now. My grandparents are the only ones who truly check in on me, who talk to me regularly and actually care about how I'm doing. They're the ones I consider my real support system. Now suddenly he's married and expecting a new child, and I wasn't even told until after the fact. I don't know what they want to discuss, and honestly, I'm afraid and I'm suspecting that it's something that involves me giving up something, whether it's my time, my support, or worse, my rights to the house my mom left me. Right now, I don't know whether I should actually go and meet him or not. I'm really torn. Part of me feels like I should at least hear him out, maybe for closure or clarity, but the other part of me knows that every time I've let him back in, I've ended up disappointed. I've worked hard to get where I am emotionally, and I don't want to undo that by walking into a situation that could just be manipulative or draining. Update 2. So my dad called me again last week. He was really pushing me to come and visit, saying it was important and that they really needed to talk. I didn't want to go. Honestly, every part of me was resisting it, but after thinking it over and talking to my grandparents, I figured maybe I should just go and get it over with, at least so I wouldn't be left wondering what it was they wanted so badly to discuss. So this weekend I went. It felt weird being back in the house. Even though I technically co-own it, it doesn't feel like mine anymore. It just feels like a shell of everything that happened. The fights, the cold silence, the way my mom slowly faded into that space. Being there brought all of that back. And then I met her, his new wife. She's younger than I expected, not like just out of college young, but still clearly a lot younger than him. She seemed nice overall. I don't think she expected me to show up either. Seeing her, I felt kind of bad for her, especially knowing she's pregnant. It hit me right there that she's now going to be forever tied to my dad no matter what, just like my mom and I once were. This woman still had no idea about the version of him that we knew, at least not yet. During the meeting, the way she spoke and the way she looked at him, it reminded me of how my mom used to look at Dad in the early days when she was still trying to make their marriage work. I hoped for the sake of that woman that my dad had changed, but deep down, I don't believe that can ever happen. Anyways, just as I suspected, my dad didn't waste much time before steering the conversation to what he really wanted to discuss with me. My dad looked me in the eye and said that he and his wife had talked things over and they both had come to a decision. He told me that moving forward, they didn't want me to call him Dad anymore. His reasoning was that apparently his wife is uncomfortable with the idea of their future child growing up hearing me, his existing daughter, call him Dad. He said it would be confusing for their child. Instead, he asked me to call him by his last name. I stared at him, taken aback. Yeah, he really wanted me to call him by his last name, like I'm some stranger off the street. It was like a punch to the chest. I didn't even know how to react in the moment. I just sat there numb, trying to process that this man, who already barely made space for me in his life, was now basically asking me to erase our relationship entirely. But it didn't stop there. He went on to say that they also don't want their child to have a relationship with me. At least not until the child is old enough to understand what a half-sibling is. So, in his words, he wants to basically cut off all contact between me and them just until they feel it's okay for their child to know about me. Seeing my heartbroken expression, his new wife told me that she really hopes I respect their decision because it's all for the sake of their baby and their new family. She was practically pleading, saying she didn't want me to have any hard feelings towards them in the future. It was surreal. Here I was, still trying to make sense of everything they'd said, and then she's telling me to respect this decision like it's the most natural thing in the world. Like I should just accept it without any pushback, without any understanding of how messed up this is. My dad then casually asked me if I could also sign the house over to his name. Yeah, he asked me to sign away my share of the house. Dad told me that he wanted the house all in his name so he could then leave it to his new wife and their future children, as if I weren't even his child anymore, now that he was getting another child, like I wasn't part of the equation, like my mom hadn't worked her off, saved everything she had, and fought to give me some stability after everything my dad put us through. I could feel my blood boiling. The way he said it, so matter-of-factly, like it was a done deal, like he thought I would just give it to him. I told him flat out that I wasn't signing anything. After all the ways he manipulated and used my mom, after how he treated me like I was an afterthought, I wasn't his ATM, and I wasn't going to be the one to help him build some new life while I was left with nothing. I also informed him that since he and his new wife wanted nothing to do with me anymore, I would also be talking to a lawyer about the house. My dad argued that there was no need to involve lawyers regarding this and that all I had to do was just sign some papers if I really loved and respected him as my father. I laughed and made it clear to him that I was no fool. I am my mother's child, and I know exactly when he's trying to manipulate me. I told him that I was coming for him legally. He couldn't keep living in the house that I co-owned essentially for free, while his new wife and child took over and didn't accept me as part of the family. I then saw his face shift immediately. For the first time in this whole conversation, he actually looked taken aback, like he didn't expect me to stand up for myself so forcefully. I guess he thought he could manipulate me into just handing over everything without any real consequences. But I wasn't done. I turned to his wife and told her flat out, "Good luck with my father. He's going to treat you like trash, just like he treated me and my mom. If you ever fall sick, he's going to leave you too." I said it with every ounce of bitterness and truth I could muster, because she sure as hell didn't know what she had signed up for. She probably thought she was stepping into a fairy tale, but she had no idea what kind of mess was waiting for her. After that, I walked out of the house, even though Dad continued to yell at me. When I got home, I cried for a while. Not because I miss my dad. I don't, not really. He was never much of a father anyways. But it's still a painful reminder that I was never really enough for him. Not as a daughter, and not even as a person. He is the only living parent I have left, and instead of stepping up and looking out for me, he continues to treat me worse than a stranger. Update 3. After everything that happened with my dad, I went straight to my grandparents. I explained everything to them about the house, what my dad asked for, and how I was done with his manipulation. We've been talking to a lawyer about my options, and honestly, I feel like I've reached the point where I'm genuinely done with my dad. I don't feel bad about my decision. In fact, I don't just want to make him sell the house and take my share, but I also want to legally separate myself from him. I want nothing to do with him anymore. I don't want to be tied to him in any way anymore. It's more than just the house at this point. It's about everything. The way he's treated me, the way he's treated my mom, and how he just keeps making everything about himself. I can't keep letting him pull me into this mess. I've spent so many years trying to make sense of a relationship that was never healthy, and it's gone nowhere. So I'm taking control of my own life now. My grandparents are fully backing me, and I am really grateful for that. Update 4. It's been 6 months since my last update, and a lot has happened since then. I took my dad to court and I legally separated myself from him. Honestly, it feels amazing. It was a long, hard process, but it was totally worth it to finally serve him a notice and kick him and his new wife out of the house. We then forced him to sell it so we each could get our share and go our separate ways. Throughout all of this, my dad kept telling me that I was overreacting, that I was making a bigger deal out of everything than it really was. In a moment of pure spite, my dad said, "You're just like your mom." He said it as if it was supposed to hurt me, like it was some kind of insult, but honestly, I didn't care about his opinion. His new wife even cursed me out multiple times. She once called me screaming that I've made them homeless, and that now they're stuck living in her parents' basement as they have nowhere else to go. She said that even with the money my dad got from selling the house, it's still not enough for them as they have a child to take care of. She called me a greedy a-hole for not just giving them the house and letting them live in it for free. I just laughed at her cruelly as I cut the call. I had nothing to say to her whatsoever. She doesn't even deserve a response from me. Anyways, I'm finally free. I'm going to use the money I've received from the house to help start my own business, something I've been dreaming about for a long time. I'm not going to lie. There have been moments during this whole process where I wondered if I was ever doing the right thing. But I know I made the right decision for myself. I don't need that man in my life anymore, and I'm finally free from the constant manipulation. I'm moving forward with the only people who love and support me, my grandparents. And that's all I need. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.